Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Guess what? It is finally the last week of the NFL season. I don't know why I'm saying finally. I'm actually quite sad about it because it's been a very interesting season. Everybody loves the NFL, and it's sad that the regular season is coming to an end. It has flown by, at least to me. Maybe, maybe if you're fans of certain teams, it hasn't flown by. It's been long and dreadful, but the last week of the season is here. Lots of interesting things to cover. I hope you guys, if not appreciated, at least understood the reason for the short episode last week. I'm going to maybe be a little bit closer to a longer week, but it is still kind of the Christmas season. Still a lot going on this week, even for me personally. So maybe it ends up being a little bit shorter. I don't know. Sometimes I record and I'm like, it'll only be 40 minutes, and then it's 50 minutes. So we'll see. A lot of interesting stuff to talk about today, though. As we are trying to figure out who will be the 14 teams vying for a Super Bowl in the playoffs. So without further ado, let's get into our Week 17 review, see where we stand, and then get into Week 18. First game, Christmas Day, the Steelers and the Chiefs. Chiefs kind of put a beat down. I know there was some controversy, but I don't think anybody really thought the Steelers were a better team on this day. I think the Chiefs very clearly proved they were the better team. The Steelers, I still don't think are very good. They're making the playoffs. I don't know if they're too much of a threat. Um, who knows? I could be completely wrong, but Steelers struggled hanging with the big boys here, and maybe that was to be expected. Offense for the Chiefs seemed like it's starting to find its groove at the right time. I'm still worried about the Chiefs' offense against elite defenses, which there are plenty of in the AFC playoffs currently. And as always, you never want to doubt Patrick Mahomes, right? So we'll see. We'll see what happens next week. Chiefs already have the one seed locked up with that win, so they don't really have a lot to play for. The Steelers, on the other hand, have a lot to play for. They can't be kicked out of the playoffs. There's a lot of different scenarios with them, whether it's potentially winning the division, whether it's moving down all the way to the sixth seed. Who knows? We'll see what happens with the Steelers. Who did I pick? I did pick the Chiefs to beat the Steelers, starting off the week well with 1-0. Second game of Christmas Day, the Ravens absolutely blasted the Texans. Not a good look for the Texans. If they would have lost to the Dolphins, they could really be in trouble. I guess with the Colts losing preview this week, it also helped them, but it wouldn't have mattered. But Texans, after some, they had a great win against the Bills and some good early season success. It feels like they're falling off towards the end of the year. I'm getting a little bit worried about the defense, and CJ Stroud has definitely had a sophomore slump. Granted, with the year he had as a rookie, it was hard to keep up. Ravens look like they're finding their mojo at the right time. I still believe the Ravens have the highest ceiling of any team in the NFL, and they look like they could be getting hot at the right time. Ravens with a massive blowout in Houston on Christmas Day. And who did I pick? I did pick the Ravens. Bears and Seahawks, not a lot to say here, especially now that the Seahawks were eliminated, and it was an ugly game. So maybe it's a good thing they got eliminated. Um, maybe they wouldn't have been able to be as competitive as some other teams that made it. The Bears are now on a 10-game losing streak. Remember when they were 4-2? I try not to brag too much, but remember when the Bears were 4-2, and I told everybody they might not win another game the rest of the season? Well, they're now 4-12, and they very well could finish 4-13. I had this Bears team figured out early. Caleb Williams has been up and down. This was not a good game for the Bears offensively, as many have been this season. Defense played well, especially against the Seattle offense that has scored a lot of points at times this season. Seattle still got eliminated this week. Both of these teams looking forward to next season. The Bears probably more so than Seattle. Uh, ugly Thursday night football game, but ugly football is still football. Well, probably come May, the football community is going to be wishing they had some ugly Thursday night football. Who did I pick? I did pick the Seahawks. Moving on into the Saturday slated games, and I thought this game might be a little bit closer than this. I Obviously I said the Chargers are the much better team because they are, and the Chargers should win. I was expecting a little bit more from the Patriots. Maybe it hurt when Drake May went out, even if it was only for a possession or two. Uh, but the Chargers pick up a big win against a team they should beat by a lot of points and clinch their playoff spot. Have clinched the playoff. The only question for them is seeding. Where are they going to be, the 5 or the 6 seed? Big win, not a lot to say. The Patriots now hold the number 1 seed after some other results. We'll see if they hold that into the draft. It will be very interesting if they do, to see what they do, because they definitely seem to have their quarterback of the future, and there's a lot of quarterback needy teams behind them. Chargers not one of them, though. Herbert played well. Lad McConkey looks like he was a great stud, a great draft pick, somebody that the Patriots could have had, but ended up drafting or going another direction. Maybe that's the best way to say that. Chargers, I'm still a little bit worried about their ability to beat the best teams, but Jim Harbaugh definitely has experience doing it, even if the rest of the team doesn't. We'll see how they look in the playoffs against stiffer competition than the Patriots. Who did I pick to win? I did pick the Chargers. Still undefeated on the week. Bengals and Broncos. This was an exciting game. While I did win one fantasy football championship, I should have won another, but Joe Burrow and T. Higgins had other ideas. Just like Joe Burrow and T. Higgins don't want to miss the playoffs. Ja'Marr Chase, too. He had a good game. Just T. Higgins had 3 touchdowns from Joe Burrow. Great overtime game. It felt like both teams had chances to win, especially the Bengals, and they just kept throwing the game away. I thought this was going to end in a tie after the Bengals missed that overtime field goal. It doesn't end in a tie. They get the ball back, go right down the field, and a T. Higgins scores the touchdown, which was big, right? Because the Bengals, if the Broncos, they didn't even have to win. They just had a tie, and they would clinch a playoff spot. The Bengals needed a win to stay alive, and they got it. Not only does the Bengals win keep them alive, it also kept the Dolphins and Colts alive as long as they won. We'll see what happened with those teams later on. But this was an incredibly exciting game. A great Saturday night primetime game, and I hope everybody got to watch it because it was a great game between two teams, one with really good playoff hopes, one with quite slim playoff hopes. But it was still a game between two teams that were alive for the playoffs, which doesn't always happen this late in the season. Great win by the Bengals, who in overtime. Who did I pick to win? I did pick the Bengals, so we're still undefeated. I'm still undefeated, 5-0 to start the week. We're 6-0. Moving on, the Rams and the Cardinals. Well, I guess this was the Saturday night headliner, wasn't it? The Bengals and Broncos were the afternoon. I apologize there. So I am 5-0. Rams and Cardinals. I'm pretty sure the Cardinals were eliminated, but there's a lot of people in Seattle that needed them to win this game. And the Cardinals just kept shooting themselves in the foot. This is a game the Cardinals could have won. Interception, missed extra point. Where they would have only needed a field goal. The Rams, honestly, in my opinion, didn't look very good. It didn't inspire confidence in their ability to win a playoff game at home, especially if they're matched up with a team like the Packers. But the important thing is they won and Seattle lost, and the other things happened for the Rams that needed to happen, and they clinched a playoff spot. They can get healthy week 18 if they choose to. Cardinals eliminated. And after that 6-4 start leading the division, I think they were looking good, and I'm sure a lot of people had hopes for the Cardinals. And then they just tailed off. They're currently 7-9, so 1-5 after being a 6-4 division leader. Not a good way to end the season for the Cardinals. And all the mistakes they made this game kind of showed why they struggled at times. But yeah, after I was expecting a lot from the Rams after they beat the Bills in that shootout of a game, and it hasn't materialized yet. They kind of been floundering since. We'll see if they can get hot in time for the playoffs. That's the biggest question. Who did I have winning this game? I did have the Los Angeles Rams. So now we're 6-0, moving into the Sunday slate. What a big game. The Colts and the Giants, and the Giants kind of screwed up their number 1 pick, and I know a lot of people are mad about it. But at the end of the day, those guys are professional athletes. They're playing for spots on rosters next year. They're trying to put stuff on tape. They're playing for contract bonuses. There's a lot of guys that can have a lot of money wrapped up in contract bonuses. And at the end of the day, the Giants hadn't won a home game all year. This was the last opportunity. You always want to win at least one in front of the home crowd. They saw their opportunity and they took it. It was a great start. And the Colts, all they needed to do was beat a Giants team that was 2-13 coming into this game, and their playoff hopes would be alive. And I've been saying they're not very good. I've been saying they've benefited from some luck and some easy schedule, and they lost, and they proved me right. An ugly, ugly loss. I know there was a special teams touchdown, and I know that there were some turnovers that helped the Giants, but giving up 45 to that team, to that offense, is flat out inexcusable, especially starting Drew Lock, especially with how bad the offense has been. And the Colts defense looked horrible. The offense looked good at some times, but too many turnovers. Even two is too much. And hideous game from the Colts. I think Pat McAfee expressed the frustration of a lot of Colts fans. And honestly, I think there's a lot of stuff that he said that has some merit to it, even if I don't always agree with Pat McAfee. The Colts seem like they're a little bit soft. They didn't seem like a great team, and I've been saying it all year. It finally happened. The Giants, with a massive win, it shifted the hopes of playoff hopes for multiple teams, while also ruining their hopes for the number one pick. So very interesting game. A lot happened. A lot to unpack there. Who did I pick? I did pick the Colts because why would a team fighting for the playoff lives lose to a team that has the number one overall pick? But sometimes crazy things happen. First loss of the week. That's okay. Still on pace to have a good week. The Saints and the Raiders. Jokes on me for ever thinking Derek Carr was going to play Sunday and picking the Saints for that. I might have said I was still picking the Saints because the Raiders won one game and they don't want to win too many and give themselves a bad pick. Jokes on me. Brock Bowers with another incredible game, literally broke records in that game. Obvious, as I've been saying the last month, the Raiders may not have much going for them, but at least they have Brock Bowers to watch. Looking back on that week 2 game where the Raiders beat the Ravens in Baltimore, it still becomes more and more curious how that happened. And the Saints, man, a season with so much promise just right down the drain. A season that started with promise, at least in a lot of people's eyes, right down the drain. Yeah, I mean, honestly, both of these teams probably wanted to lose, but the Raiders played pretty well. They won a game. The Saints need to figure out the quarterback because for so long it feels like the rest of this team is ready to go. Derek Carr looked good at times, but clearly isn't the answer. And Spencer Rattler doesn't look like the guy. I don't know what the Saints are going to do, but definitely need a quarterback, and hopefully they have a top 10 pick and can potentially address that if you're a Saints fan. Who did I pick? I did think the Saints were going to win at home, partially because Derek Carr was starting, but even still, I thought maybe. And I was wrong, so I absorbed the second loss of the week. Moving on to the Jaguars and Titans, it was definitely a game between 2, 3, and 13 teams with quarterback questions, and the Jaguars came away with the win. There's not a whole lot else to say. It was my toilet bowl game of the week. Wasn't a very good game to watch for a multitude of reasons. It's just two teams that aren't very good this year. I'm still interested to see if Doug Peterson gets fired from the Jaguars. Mac Jones still trying to take out a good audition. There's still a lot of good pieces on the Jaguars. They just need somebody or need something to coalesce them totally, and I think they'll be good. Titans, on the other hand, they need a quarterback. They need a lot. They're playing some teams tough, and that's good for them, but they have their eyes set on trying to get a top 5 pick. And losing this game to Jacksonville definitely helped with that. Who did I pick? I did have the Jaguars at home. Moving on, the Bills and the Jets. And it was 40-0, or it was 33-0. The Bills put in their backups and went up 40-0. Jets scored 2 late garbage time touchdowns to make it look better. And the Jets, I don't know. Season of disaster for him. Aaron Rodgers has been struggling recently. He's had some good games this season. That offense isn't completely horrendous, but the defense has been getting worse and worse throughout the season, in my opinion. Obviously, as I've been on record saying multiple times, large part, I think, because Robert Saleh is going. If if anybody needs a defensive coordinator, I know who I would look at. Definitely a great defensive mind in the sport. And yeah, I mean, Bills really didn't have much to play for, especially after the Chiefs lost. As long as they won this game and they were up big, Bills have nothing to play for week 18. They're locked into the 2 seed. Jets may be a chance to play spoiler, but they don't have a lot to play for week 18 either. Just an ugly game. Embarrassing game from the Jets is really what it is. The Bills embarrass another division opponent. Seems like it happens a lot. They really only had one close divisional game, and that was that game-winning field goal as time expired in Buffalo against the Dolphins. Other than that, they've kind of owned the division and just beaten everybody to a pulp. Who do I pick? Who did I pick? I did pick the Bills to win. Back on a small little winning streak. Moving on, the Eagles and the Cowboys. Not a lot to say here. The Eagles demolished the Cowboys, even with some quarterback struggle, or some quarterback health concerns, both with Jalen Hurts and then the backup Kenny Pickett getting hurt. Eagles still found the way. The defense played great, forced turnovers all over everywhere. The receiving core played well. Saquon Barkley hit 2,000 yards to cap off his wonderful season because it doesn't look like he's playing week 18. Eagles pick up a big win, lock themselves into the 2 seed, confirm they're hosting a home playoff game. Cowboys lose another game. They might want to think about losing another one, get themselves a good draft pick where they can try and get an expedited rebuild because there's still a lot of great pieces. Maybe try and work out a Micah Parsons extension. A lot of things the Cowboys can have to look forward to the future. Obviously, Dak Prescott getting hurt this season, and they weren't off to a great start even with him. So some things that are unfortunate for the Cowboys, but also some things to look forward to going in the next season. Eagles look like one of the best teams in the NFL and a Super Bowl contender, definitely hosting a playoff game. It's just a question of who their opponent's going to be. Who did I pick? I did pick the Eagles at home. Not a lot to say here. The Buccaneers going to haven't clinched a playoff spot, but they look like a playoff team. They have been playing really well all year. The Panthers, streaky up and down, but they were never really a great team. And the Buccaneers just took it to the Panthers, absolutely blew them out, able to get the starters some rest. And again, another game. There's a lot of them this week where it was a really a good team against a bad team, 2 teams heading in opposite directions. Panthers will look to get a top 5 or top 10 pick, maybe a top 5 pick. That seems unlikely, depending on other results. Not a whole lot else to say. Just a good team versus a bad team, and the Bucs took it to them at home, and now have first place of the NFC South. It switches hands again. Who did I pick? I did pick the Buccaneers. Dolphins and Browns. Dolphins playing without Tua again. Browns not trying to win a football game again. Second half, especially for the Dolphins, went a little bit better. The offense looked a little bit better. Browns, they just didn't look like they were trying to do anything. They're a broken football team. Have pieces. They thought they were going to maybe make the playoffs for the second year in a row. That did not happen. They're heading for a top 5 pick, hopefully. And we will see if the Browns take advantage of said top 5 pick. And probably need a quarterback and need to figure out what to do with Deshaun Watson. Dolphins, because of the Bengals win, are still alive. The Colts loss also helped them because if the Colts went out, the Dolphins would not have been able to pass them. So now the Dolphins only need 2 things to happen for them to have a chance at the playoffs. Obviously, we'll see what happens this week with their injuries, and who knows if they could even make any noise in the playoffs. But the Dolphins are still alive in the playoff hunt after an interesting win in the cold in Cleveland, even if Cleveland's not a very good team this year. Who did I pick? I did pick Miami. Arguably the week's biggest game. Packers win. They still have a chance at the number 5 seed and look really good for the 6 seed. Vikings needed to win to stay alive for the 1 seed. Honestly, with a loss, they might have still been fine. They needed a win to stay alive in the NFC North race in the 1 seed as well. This was an exciting game. Vikings got out big early. The Packers came storming back. Fell just short at the end. Packers have still not beaten a team with a winning record, but they've come awfully close, and you have to feel like it's going to come at some point, right? They definitely played well in the playoffs last year. We'll see what happens with the Jordan Love, Mike LaFleur combo in Green Bay. Minnesota picking up a massive win, and they will be either the 1 seed or the 5 seed after week 18, which feels really sucky for a team that is 14-2 and is at worst going to finish 14-3. But that's the way the NFL playoff format is set up. Sam Darnold is looking great, and the Vikings passing offense really seems like it's found its stride throughout the course of the season, revived Darnold's career. And Brian Flores has that Vikings defense playing pretty good too. They appear to be a Super Bowl contender. We'll see what Sam Darnold does if he can keep it up in the playoffs. Who did I pick? I did pick the Packers. I thought this was going to be the game. They finally got over the hump, and it was not. Moving on to Sunday Night Football, the Commanders and the Falcons. This was a close one. The Falcons needed to win this. If they win this game, they would have continued to hold their own destiny to the NFC South. And unfortunately, they lost, which now gives the Buccaneers their destiny. The only way the Falcons can win the division now is a Buccaneers loss and them winning. And boy, did they have a chance to win. Field goal going short. I feel like the Falcons had multiple opportunities to win that game, and they couldn't quite seize it. Daniels made some mistakes, made enough good plays to make up for it, made enough good plays to win the game. I feel like that's been the story for him this season. I'm still a little bit worried about him. He ran a lot at the end of that game, and I think there's sometimes he needs to throw the ball because there was some open, or I think sometimes some of his routes flash open with enough time for him to get it, and he gets a little bit spooked. But he's a rookie quarterback, and he's doing the best he can to make plays, and he's still playing pretty darn well, probably the offensive rookie of the year, and he's leading the Commanders to the playoffs. So you can't, I guess I can't be too critical. It's just some fine-tuning things, but he has the Commanders in the playoffs, and they have the potential to get the 6th seed if everything goes right. And the Falcons, just a bad loss. You wonder if maybe they should have started playing Penix sooner, because Kirk Cousins wasn't playing well, obviously, and that was probably a good decision to bench him. But putting Michael Penix in at the very end of the season when you're in the middle of a playoff hunt feels very unfair to a rookie quarterback. Maybe put him in earlier in the season if you're going to do it. Give him time to adjust, especially because they had some easier games, and get some momentum and build it up before you get to this point in the year. And then he would have been ready to go by playoffs, and at least in theory. So maybe some poor decision making by the Falcons, and it looks very unlikely they'll make the playoffs this year, but they still have a lot of talent on the roster for next season. Who did I pick to win? I did pick the Commanders. Last game of the week, Monday Night Football, the Giants, I'm thinking of the wrong San Francisco team. The 49ers and the Lions in San Francisco. 49er season is over. Maybe just trying to upset the apple cart a little bit with the Lions. Lions, despite all their injuries, are still playing well. They're still scoring a ton of points on offense. And they needed a win. Honestly, they didn't even need a win. You don't want to lose momentum, but even if they lost this game, they would have still been in the running for the 1st seed. They would have still controlled their own destiny for it. I'm so sorry. I keep thinking the San Francisco Giants. I don't know why. It's not even baseball season. The San Francisco 49ers played close. They had nothing to play for. The 49ers might actually scare some people for next year because they have a lot of good players returning. We'll see what happens with Brock Purdy. But they're going to have a pretty high pick in the top half of the draft. So maybe they could get a really good player they didn't think they were going to be able to, maybe at the back end of the 1st round where everybody thought they were going to be picking. Who knows? But they still played this game close. They still played tough. Lions pulled it out in the end, and that's all that matters. Lions are playing one of the most important games of the week next week. And who did I pick to win this? I did pick the Lions. Week 17, you can see the record was 13-3. Another great week. Got hot down the end, trying to run down the 70% winning percentage that was outlined. Now, for those of you who don't know, we've been talking about the 70% correct percentage, which is a pretty darn good pick percentage. I've done the math. 70% of 272, which is the amount of NFL games played in a season, is 190.4, which means 190 would be just a smidge under 70%, but 191 is the magic number, which means this week I need to go no worse than 11-5 and I will achieve the goal of going 70%. We'll see if it happens. As you can see, I haven't gone 11-5. I have a lot of 12 and 14, a 13 win week. I've never won just 11 games. I'm fine if I win more than that. But the important thing is we're in the very high 69%, 69 point like 6, 7, 8. I forget the exact number. I just remember that I need to hit 11 correct games this week. Will that happen? I don't know. This is a tough week to pick because a lot of different teams are resting different guys. We'll talk about that a little bit when we are previewing games. So it's going to be a little bit tough this week. I think I can do it though. 11-5 is the goal, and that will get me to the season goal. Let's try and squeeze the playoff picture, and there's not a lot to talk about, so we're going to squeeze it in here. Chiefs and Bills in this playoff picture have wrapped up the 1 and 2 seeds. No reason to play this week. I believe the Steelers can still catch the Ravens, but it's going to take a lot to go right. That honestly probably won't happen in some interesting tiebreaker scenarios. Texans are locked into the 4 seed, but they also haven't been playing well lately. Be interesting to keep an eye on them this week. The Steelers and Chargers have both clinched, but the Steelers can still be the 3 seed. The Steelers can be the 5 seed, and they can be the 6 seed. The Chargers are currently the 6 seed, and depending on what happens with the Steelers and their game on Saturday, the Chargers will know if they can play up to get a 5 seed. I don't know about you guys, but if I'm the Steelers and the Chargers, I would much rather go and play in Houston in a dome against the Texans rather than going to Baltimore in the weather and playing the Ravens in Baltimore, or even potentially the Steelers if they're the 3 seed. And then the Broncos are the only team in there that hasn't clinched. For the Bengals to make it pretty simple clinching scenarios, if the Broncos win or tie, they're automatically in. If the Broncos lose and the Dolphins win, the Dolphins are in. If the Broncos lose and the Dolphins lose, the Bengals are in. So if based on probability, the Dolphins only need 2 things to happen, the Bengals need 3 things to happen, and the Broncos need 1 thing to happen, and they have 2 ways to do it. So the Broncos are definitely the heavy favorite to get there. I'd put the Dolphins a smidge ahead of the Bengals, and then the Bengals. And honestly, I think if you're the rest of the AFC playoffs, I don't think you want the Bengals to make it because that offense can outscore anybody, and they've almost beaten the Ravens multiple times. They've almost beaten the Bills this year. So they've played a lot of close games. They've almost beaten the Steelers. I don't think teams want to see them make it. That's the AFC playoff picture. Only 3 teams fighting for 1 spot and a couple of seeding things. Quickly to go over the NFC, not a lot to talk about. The winner of Vikings-Lions this week will be the 1 seed. The loser will be the 5 seed. The Commanders and Packers both have different scenarios and different tiebreaker things and different stuff where they can be 6 or 7. So both of them need to play because if one loses and the other one wins, it's a seeding change and nobody wants to go to Philly. Everybody would much rather, at least I think, play LA. If my memory serves me correctly, the Buccaneers cannot move up to the 3 seed even with a win and a Rams loss. I think the Rams are locked into the 3. They don't have anything to play for. The Buccaneers do, however, the only team that can make the playoffs is the Falcons, and obviously it's not as a wild card. The Falcons have the head-to-head tiebreaker over the Bucs. So if the Buccaneers lose and the Falcons win, the Falcons will be in. That seems unlikely because obviously Week 18, everybody plays a divisional opponent, and the other divisional teams in the NFC South are not very good. So it seems very likely that the Buccaneers probably win semi-easily. But you never know. Who would have thought the Giants were going to beat the Colts last week? Not a lot of people. Now with the playoff pictures for both conferences in mind, I'm going to move on to the Week 18 symbols, which everybody should be familiar with. I apologize if you hear my voice going in and out. I'm a little bit scratchy. My voice is worn out. I've done a lot of talking the last couple of days, and it's starting to get cold. And sometimes, you get a little bit of a cold, a little bit of congestion, and that doesn't help either. So I apologize if my voice is scratchy or hard to understand sometimes. Just know, I know, and not a whole lot I can do about it. Just been talking a lot, been hanging out with some family and some friends I haven't seen in a while, as you should do around the holidays. I just realized throughout the recording my voice is kind of going out a little bit, so I wanted to just figured I'd give you all that update. Anyway, here you see my symbols. I'm sure you've had time to look at it. Same ones that it has been all year. Don't need to talk about it. I don't think. I think we all know what to look for. So without further ado, let's get into this week's games. There's 2 Saturday games. Both are AFC North matchups. The Ravens win this game, and they are the 3 seed. The Browns have nothing to play for. And because the Ravens have something to play for, I think this could be a game that gets ugly fast. I am interested to see what happens with Bailey Zappi starting at quarterback for the Browns. I don't have a lot of hope for them, especially in Baltimore. The Browns have beaten the Ravens once, and the Browns do have a habit of beating divisional opponents, but I don't think the Browns are going to catch the Ravens slacking a second time, especially at home. I see the Ravens winning this one. I see them winning it easily, getting a big lead early so they can kind of just coast and potentially even rest starters to get ready for playoffs. Not a whole lot to say here. Just probably going to be another blowout. This one is interesting. I'm labeling it a top 5 game of the week, and the Steelers need a rebound. They need to get off the slide. They've lost 2 in a row, both to good teams, the Ravens and the Chiefs. But while they have clinched, they desperately, in my opinion, need to win this game. Wanted at all costs avoid going to the Ravens, which I think will happen if they lose. So they need a rebound to get some momentum going in to the playoffs. And the Steelers, or that's who I'm talking about, and the Bengals, rather, they need to win this game to have any hope. They could win this game and still not make the playoffs, but they won't know that when they play, so they have to play with the assumption that the Broncos are going to lose and they still have a chance. So Steelers are playing for seeding position. They have, like I said earlier, they have potential to be 3, 5, and 6. Bengals need to play just to make the dance. They need to win. So this is actually a game that matters for these two teams, which is why it's a top 5 game. There's not a whole lot of games that matter, especially for both teams. So definitely watch this one. Divisional rivalry game. The first one was great. I still think the Steelers maybe aren't great offensively, but the Bengals defense is bad. Bengals fighting for their lives on the road. And quite frankly, I think most of the teams would rather see the Steelers than the Bengals in the playoffs. So a lot of people are going to be cheering for the Steelers in this one. But all that being said, I think the Bengals offense has been so hot. I think they are going to be more desperate than the Steelers because they, in all reality, have more at stake. I'm picking the Bengals to win this game. Falcons and Panthers in a game that will mean something for the Falcons, even if they don't think the Saints are going to beat the Buccaneers. Still have something to play for. You still have a chance at the playoffs. When you have a chance, you have to go for it. Falcons have a chance. They have to go for it. Not a whole lot else to be said. Panthers probably don't want to win another game because it might put them outside of the top 10 of the draft. And they definitely are a team that needs to be picking that high. Even if they are a little bit more enthused about keeping Bryce Young than they were in the past because he has ended the season playing much better than he has. I'm going to pick the Falcons to win this game. The Panthers defense is good, so I'm a little bit worried about Penix playing against them, and I'm worried about him struggling a little bit. But I think in the end, the Falcons are going to do enough, even if it's just turning around and giving the ball to Bijan Robinson. Falcons win this game at home. Commanders and Cowboys, I very close to picking the Cowboys, just trying to end the season on a high note at home. They did beat the Commanders earlier this year. Even if maybe they weren't technically eliminated from the playoffs, they pretty much knew they were. The Cowboys did pick up a big win 2 weeks ago, but they looked awful last week. I do think the Cowboys they're really going to be trying to play. I think they really want to end the season on a high note, but I'm a little bit worried about some of the things in the locker room. Not that I've heard or seen anything come out. I just think there's some different things going on. I'm starting to worry that they're playing for themselves and not necessarily as a team. I have no reports. That's just my belief with body language. The Commanders need this game if they want to avoid going to Philly, and if I was them, I definitely would. Especially with the way the game ended 2 weeks ago, they're playing well. They're beating two. They have 2 good wins in a row. I think the Commanders are playing better. This one's going to be closer than folks think it is. I do think the Commanders pull it out in the end, though. Packers, Bears, not a lot to say. Bears not very good. Packers still have something to play for. They're still playing for seeding. They're at home. It's also a rivalry game. I think the Packers offense will, even maybe they start slow against the good Bears defense. I still don't think they're going to have too much trouble moving the ball. Bears offense not very good. Packers defense will do enough to stop them. I think the Packers win this one. And I think there's even going to be some motivation from them to get up big so they can take a rest before the playoffs. We'll see if that happens or not. The Bears, if they keep it close enough, will not allow that to happen. But the Packers are still playing for a 6 seed. If everything goes right, they can still get there. And that means, yes, I am picking the Bears to end the season on an 11-game losing streak, which I predicted when they were 4-2. Packers win this one at home. Colts and Jaguars in a game nobody should care about. The Colts lost their playoff, and they're at home. They lost to a worse team than the Jaguars last week in the Giants. So it's not unfathomable to think that they could lose this game as well. Jaguars won a game last week, starting to play a little bit better, and the Colts aren't great. Their passing defense certainly isn't. And if there's one thing the Jaguars have, it's receiving options, right? Weapons that can catch the ball. So definitely some concern if you're the Colts there. I do think they're going to be upset that they've lost the playoffs. I don't think they're going to really be sitting too many people. I think the Colts have enough guys that want jobs next year, want to prove themselves, that I think they show up for this game at home, even if they're eliminated. I don't think there's a whole lot of reason to watch this one because of the situation both teams are in. It could get very high scoring just because the Colts don't have a good defense and they'll be able to move the ball against the Jaguars. I'm going to pick the Colts to win, but I don't feel great about it because it's so hard the last week of the season when teams are eliminated or both teams have nothing to play for, whether they're clinched and eliminated, whether they're both clinched, whatever it is. So you never know who will and won't play. But I think the Colts should be playing enough starters where they get this win against the Jaguars. It is also my toilet bowl game of the week. There's not a lot of great games, but there's not a lot of obvious toilet bowl games. There's not too many bad team against bad team. So I'm picking this because the way the Colts lost last week and the fact the Jaguars aren't very good, you probably don't want to watch this game. I don't know. It doesn't look good. Maybe if you like points, you want to watch it, but I don't think either of these teams is very good. And I think with what happened last week, the Colts aren't very happy either. So not a lot of great choices for toilet bowl game of the week. So this one gets the honor. Moving on, the Patriots against the Buffalo Bills backups. I don't feel great about picking this game because who knows what the Bills backups are going to look like. Obviously, it's hard to start 100% backups. The roster's only so big. Bills are going to be starting them everywhere they can. I do think Josh Allen comes out for at least one or two series because he wants to keep his game starter streak alive, which is kind of bogus to me. Like, the streak shouldn't, like, if he comes out just to start the game and plays one play or one series, like, it's different when your team is winning a blowout. But to be like I don't know, it just kind of stinks to me. Like, I get what he's doing, and it's an important record to him, but like, you don't see other guys doing it. I like Mahomes could probably have a super long start streak, but he actually rests because he cares more about the Super Bowl. I don't know. I mean, Josh Allen's obviously an incredible quarterback. It just kind of seems weird to me. We'll see how much he actually plays. Maybe he plays a whole half and then get up big and he coasts, and then it doesn't even matter, right? But still, Bills backups against the Patriots. The Patriots, because of the backups, they might be able to hang in there and win this game, which would be tragic for him because they're the number one seed. I do think this game could be closer than people think because the Bills aren't going to play their starters. I do think in the end the Bills do enough, and I also think the Patriots aren't trying to win, even if I know it kind of goes against everything I was talking about with the Giants, but even if I don't know, even if the Patriots do keep it close, I think there's going to be enough of a motivation to lose where even if the guys on the field are trying to win, maybe some things happen that it works out, right? So I'm going to pick the Bills, but I don't feel good about it. Eagles and Giants. The Giants have no reason to win this game. They didn't have any reason to win last week, though. They are on the road at Philly, and both of these teams still don't like each other. The Eagles are going to rest a lot of guys, which makes sense. They should rest a lot of guys. But quite frankly, I think the Eagles playing most of their backups are still going to be good enough to beat the Giants at home. The Giants just aren't very good even after that win last week. And I think the Eagles will probably still be starting a couple starters on defense, at least enough where they can get enough stops. The Eagles have already proved with their backup quarterback they can move the ball. Maybe he won't have as many weapons this time, so it might make it a little bit more difficult. But I think the Eagles do enough. The Philly fans don't ever want to see the Giants come to Philly and win. And I don't think that Philly players want to see that. I think this game could be ugly. I think it will be low scoring. And I think Philly picks up an ugly win with their backups against a not very good Giants team trying to get the best draft position as possible. Buccaneers and Saints, not a lot of things to say. Saints aren't very good. They shouldn't start Derek Carr. They shouldn't start their guys. They're just like, whatever. Well, it'll be interesting to see if Alvin Kamara gets moved in the offseason. The Bucs are at home. A win for the Bucs clinches them a playoff spot, and that's arguably the most important thing here. The Saints aren't very good. The Bucs are good. They need a win to make the playoffs, and I think the Bucs are going to win this game by a lot. I think it could be very similar to the Panthers game for the Bucs last week. Bucs get to sit back on the bench the fourth quarter and watch after winning big over the Saints. I think I put the rebound here for the Texans. They're on a two-game losing streak to good teams, and one of them wasn't close, one of them wasn't. I just think the Texans need to go into the playoffs with some momentum, right? Go into the playoffs on a win, going into the playoffs, playing well because they haven't played particularly well down the stretch. And they really have nothing to play for. So maybe they shouldn't play their starters against the Titans. I don't think that's the case. I think the Texans will play their starters long enough. Keep in mind the Titans did beat the Texans in Houston, and I don't think they've forgotten about that. I don't feel great about picking the Texans because the Titans beat their starters, and I don't think the Texans will be playing their starters the entire time. And my gut is telling me to go with the Texans, even though my rationality in my head is telling me to go with the Titans. I hate picking this game. I hate picking these types of games late in the season. I'm going to stick with the Texans, but I'm only like 52% confident they're going to win. I'm 48% confident the Titans are going to win. Very difficult game. I just think the Texans need the win going into the playoffs. I think it'll be big for building momentum, even if it is against a bad team. And I think their starters play long enough and play well enough to get them the win. Another game between two teams that don't care, two teams that at different points in the season had hopes of making the playoffs and being contenders, and both teams have looked good in various games this season. However, neither one of these teams, I think, will care in this game, and I think I was going to pick the 49ers, but the Cardinals are at home. Maybe they want to send the home team home with a parting gift. The home team fans, that is. I don't know. I think this game is just as much of a toss-up as the last one. I hate picking this. Whoever I pick, the other team is going to win. I've been on the 49ers most of the week, but I think I'm going to stick with the Cardinals because I think the Cardinals are going to be, between health and rest, are going to be playing more guys than the 49ers do. I haven't heard anything about the Cardinals resting players, and I don't think they really have a reason to. I'm going to pick the Cardinals. Again, I don't feel great about it, but I'm going to pick the Cardinals at home. And I'm going to pick the 49ers to get a better draft pick and the Cardinals to win a game that really doesn't mean anything for anybody. Broncos need to rebound. They are on a 2-game losing streak, one to the Chargers, one to the Bengals. They need to rebound, get some momentum going into the playoffs. I do have this as a top 5 game of the week. Some of these top 5 game of the week are also just the most important game for the playoff picture. This game is incredibly important because if the Broncos lose, it brings in 2 more teams that can possibly make it with wins. And if the Broncos win, it eliminates the last 2 teams to be eliminated in the AFC. And like I said, the Broncos, if they're going to make the playoffs, while they can make it with a tie, I'm sure they'd much rather have a win at home. Again, momentum is so important. Playing well as a team at the right time is so important. Broncos definitely need that to happen for them. And Obviously, if you were to look at these records, you're like, Broncos could be in trouble playing the team with the best record in the NFL, a team that's already beaten them once. However, it's already mentioned, if you've been paying attention at all, that the Chiefs are in all likelihood benching as many of their starters as they can for rest. There isn't any need to play him. Carson Wentz of all people is going to be the backup that's going to or Wentz is Mahomes' backup that's going to be getting the playing time. No Kelsey, I'm sure Chris Jones and a lot of the vets will not be playing. We'll see what happens, right? Like the Broncos should win this game. They're going to be heavily favored because the Chiefs are resting all these guys, but maybe the Chiefs decide they don't want their division rival to make it and they'd rather have somebody else make it. The Chiefs can definitely win this game if they want to, but they're not going to play their starters, and I don't think they should because of the situation they're in. I think the Broncos will win this one, but boy, isn't it going to be so much more fun if the Chiefs win this game. And in large part, again, I don't think they are, but I do think it is more fun in large part because of the next game. Oh, well, not this game. Keep the Dolphins game in mind. That's what makes this game that game could make this game really fun. But we'll get into it when we get there. Rams and Seahawks, neither team has anything to play for but pride. It has just been announced that the Rams are not starting Stafford. Probably a good idea. Rams don't have anything to play for. Even if the Seahawks beat them and they finish with the same record, the Rams have already clinched the division title. Kind of sucks for the Seahawks. So they're like, we can finish with the same record as them, but the way the NFL's tie-breaking procedures work, Rams can't pass the Rams, which is kind of unfortunate because this could have been a really, really fun rivalry game if it meant something, but it doesn't. I think the Seahawks are going to win because I think they're still going to play. They're going to play many more starters. I think they kind of want to go out on a high note, get to 10 wins, which is, that's a nice round number. It's double-digit wins. End the season on a high note. A decent season. They definitely had a little bit of a difficult schedule to me, but I think the Seahawks will win this game. If for nothing else, they're playing more starters. That might be the most important thing. And maybe they want, because the Rams are the team that eliminate them and are going to win the division, they want to send a little message that we're going to remember this. Raiders and Chargers in a game that means absolutely nothing. Well, that's not true. The Chargers game could very much mean something depending on the results of the Steelers game the day before, because the Chargers can move up a seed. It also matters what the Ravens do, because if the Ravens lose and they become a wild card team, the Chargers can't move up because the Ravens beat them head to head. But the Chargers can leapfrog the Steelers if everything goes right. So the Chargers game could be very important. However, depending on the results of the other games, it could mean nothing because the Chargers could be locked into the 6th seed depending on the results Saturday. Raiders obviously have nothing to play for. They've won their last 2 games or 2 of their last 3, so they're kind of playing well. Aiden O'Connell, they seem to play better with offensively, and the defense gets enough stops. Here's my prediction about this. I hate to put caveats, but at the time of recording, I don't have all the information I need that could be helpful for picking this game. So I'm going to say that if the Chargers can still move up or down in seeding due to the results of their game, I'm going to say they win this game. Like, if this game matters for seeding purposes, I think the Chargers play their starters, and I think they win this game big over the Raiders. If they don't play the starters, the Raiders, I think, have a very good chance to beat them, and I think very well could. I'm going to pick the Chargers, but if this game doesn't matter for them, I think I'm picking the Raiders. That's my caveat. But yes, I'm going to say the Chargers because I think the most likely scenario is that this game does matter for seeding for them. Another top game of the week. This game is very consequential for the playoffs, right? This game will be happening at the same time as the Broncos and Chiefs. And while everybody says they're not going to look at the score, I'm sure the Jets in a rivalry game will let the Dolphins know if the Broncos are winning by 50 points and are going to win, because that would kill their playoff dreams and might mean they don't care anymore. However, the Dolphins are coming into this game like, we still have a chance to win. We still have a chance to make the playoffs, more importantly. And if the Chiefs can pull off the upset, I think the most interesting scenario is the Bengals winning and the Chiefs winning, and it being a scenario of is it Dolphins or Bengals? Because I think fully healthy, a healthy Dolphins team and a healthy Bengals team are both better than a healthy Broncos team and make for a better, more exciting playoff. So it would be really fun if like the Broncos and if the Chiefs beat the Broncos and then there's still 5 minutes left in this game and the Dolphins know they're playing for a chance for the playoffs. It could also go the other way where they know pretty early on the Broncos are winning because they're playing against the Chiefs backups and the Dolphins know that they're eliminated and then they don't care. I do think the Jets want to play spoiler. Aaron Rodgers, I mean, there's talks potentially maybe this is his last NFL game ever. He's not going to want to go down on a bad note, especially with arguably his worst career game last week. He and his buddy Devontae Adams most likely not on the Jets next year, so they're going to want to have a good game so they can get looked at for another team and potentially make more money. The Jets, while they really don't have anything to play for, Aaron Rodgers does, Devontae Adams does, and it seems like their locker room is kind of fracturing, but there's still enough guys there where they can make this an interesting game. Don't forget, these teams played a couple weeks ago in Miami, and it took a fourth quarter game-tying drive from Tua just to send it to overtime, and then they won it in overtime, and the Jets were winning most of that game. They tore up the Dolphins' defense that has been pretty good this year, especially in the passing game with Aaron Rodgers, who will have his weapons with him. So the Jets could win this game. And in fact, I'm going to put another caveat here, not based on playoff seeding. I think if Tua plays, the Dolphins win because of their season. That looks unlikely. It looks like Tyler Huntley's going to start, and I think if Tyler Huntley starts, I think this game. I think the Jets will win this game and eliminate the Dolphins, regardless of what happens in the other games. I think there's enough people in the Jets with something to play for that this game is going to be close, regardless. So that's my official pick. If Tua plays, the Dolphins win. If Tyler Huntley plays, the Jets win. We'll see how that pick works out. A little bit nervous about it because there's a very real world where the last game just broke the Jets and they don't care and they get blown out regardless. Still think that's unlikely, but we'll see. And another top 5 game of the week, the best game, 2-14-2 teams. It's really unfortunate. In some ways, it's unfortunate the way the NFL seeding policy works that this isn't a battle for the number 1 seed with the 2 best records, but well, it is. I mean, it's a shame that the team that loses, despite being tied for the second best record in the conference, will be the 15 seed or the 5 seed. There is no 15 seed. Will be the 5 seed. But that shows you how important this game is. Detroit at home against the Vikings. Oh boy, I might change my pick. I go back and forth. The Lions' offense has been incredible. The Lions as a team have been incredible. I'm worried about all the defenses on the defensive side of the ball. There's some rumors they might be getting some guys back, especially their so important linebacker Anzalone. And if he's back, it really helps this team going into the playoffs. The Vikings feel like they're really hitting their stride, playing well offensively, playing well defensively. And this is just a game with massive ramifications. Who's going to be the number 1 overall seed in the NFC? This is a great final game of the NFL season on Sunday Night Football. 2 divisional rivals playing for the number 1 seed in the division crown. Just incredible in my opinion. I might change the pick. You guys know I have my end screen. I might change the pick. For now, I'm going to go with the Lions just because I think they'll do just enough on defense, and I think their offense scores enough points. Even though the Vikings almost won in Minnesota, I think the home boost helps the Lions. I think the Lions win this game in a narrow one. Would not be shocked at all if the Vikings win, though. This game is going to be so good. Everybody needs to watch it. Sunday Night Football. It's the game of the week, last game of the NFL season. You can't miss it, if for no other reason than that. Everybody come and tune in. Last game of the season with arguably the most important ramifications on the line. Here you go. Here's a summary of my picks. The 2 places I put asterisk. I can't say plural asterisk asterisks. I can't say it. I'm sorry. You know what I'm trying to say. The two games I put them on um, are because of the conditions I was telling you about, where different things could affect it. So just there with the Chargers and Jets with their wins. Like I said, I could flip both of those. I reserve that right because I'm recording before I have all the information. I hope you all understand. But the rest of my picks, I feel pretty confident about for one reason or the other. Again, we'll see, right? I enjoyed doing this series. We're definitely going to do a wrap up episode to see if I achieve my goal. Talk about the playoffs. But yes, this is I need 11 wins. Hopefully I get 11 wins out of this picking. Hopefully you guys see it. Let me guys know what your picks are in the comments. I would really appreciate it. I want to see if what other people are thinking in week 18 when so much stuff is up in the air. Once again, thank you guys, everybody, for listening. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Those are the things that are the most important things to do. The things that help out me the most as a creator. Come follow me on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. Even at me, ask me questions, do whatever you want on there. Those are the things that help me the most. But again, I'm going to stress it again. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I have some ideas for content coming out. I just wanted to get through the holiday season. And you guys, one of the things you can comment or even at me on Twitter if you have an idea. Let me know what you guys want to see, right? I want to make content for the fans. I want to make content for the people listening. So you guys also comment and let me know what you want to see in here. And I'll see if I can make it happen. Thank you guys so much for listening to the series. I appreciate all the support. I appreciate the feedback. Hopefully we'll do it again next year. Hope everybody had a great holiday season. Enjoy the last week of the NFL regular season. It's the last time all 32 teams will play until September. We're through the holiday season, so you should have time to watch them all. Sit down this weekend and do nothing but watch football. Everybody have a great time. Peace out.